Hello cuties and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lavender Alchemy, but you can just call me Lavender. Today we're going to be taking a look at how I designed some tieflings. Me and my friends had what I am going to refer to as tiefling fever, and it led down a crazy road of creation and stuff like that. It is well past when I finished, and tiefling fever is more or less over with. It's been over with for a while, but it is what it is. Also, just so everybody's aware, some of the video did get lost because I'm silly and I forgot to film. I completely forgot to hit the record button. So if things are a little bit jumpy or a little bit jarring, I apologize. I did the best that I could, but I lost a bunch of video because I forgot to film it. My bad. Anywho, onto the video. For this character designing prompt, I decided to implement some rules in order to make my life a little bit easier. The rules are as follows. All characters have to follow the theme that is spun by the wheel. I made the wheel myself. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. But they have to follow whatever theme is selected by the wheel in some capacity. Number 2, I wanted to use as few AI and art references as humanly possible. I wanted to mostly use real pieces of clothing as my references and my guidelines in order to make better, more interesting pieces. Lastly, the gender is not going to be based on what's in their pants, but more just like the vibe they give. Next, for the themes, we have plant, food, sweets, animals, fantasy, modern, party, holiday, arts and crafts, magic, non-magic, and crystal. The themes are kind of vague on purpose. I wanted to have as much creative freedom as humanly possible while trying to narrow the scope of what these characters were going to look like. It was kind of a thin line. After spinning, I got fantasy, party, fantasy, crafts, holiday, and animal. Within those categories, I spun again. I spun random wheels for this, so I don't have a specific one, unfortunately. But for the first fantasy, I got dark fantasy and space. For party, I got garden party and ball. For the next fantasy, I got paranormal and romantic. For crafts, I got crafts and pottery. For holiday, I got fall and winter. And for animal, I got cow and dolphin. Now, this was too many choices and too many characters, and I was getting burnt out really quickly when designing them, so I decided to narrow it down even more. So I decided to only go with a handful. As you can see, I might pull the rest of them out on a different video if you guys really want me to and you like this video. For the first character, we got sci-fi fantasy. So I decided to take advantage of this spot and make big boots, big guitar, big personality kind of character. I'm not super familiar with the sci-fi and or science sort of world because it's not my personal cup of tea. For this particular character though, I decided to give him like these big chunky boots. I wanted them to look very mechanical. I wanted them to look really out there, kind of fun, funky. I think I should have pushed them a little bit farther and made them even bigger, but I was already pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, making them as big as they are. I'm not a big fan of putting things that don't make sense on characters, and I think that scared me out of making his boots more interesting than they they actually are, and I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm doing the best that I can. The other things that I worked on are like his big guitar. I wish that I'd put like actual strings on it and put some more detail in it, but at the same time, it is like a sci-fi guitar. It doesn't need too much on it, I don't think. I assume that it would be made, like, the strings would be made out of light, and they play kind of like a keytar maybe. I think that'd be really fun. As for his like mechanical bits, I did his really weird, funky horns and gave him a fun little tail. I wanted them to look organic, but not organic because obviously they're made out of metal. For his horns, I just gave him some cutouts and like a little light source and called it a day. I didn't want to do too much with it. But for his tail, I made these really intricately designed little pieces that are connected by a light rope, I guess would be the right word. It came out so well, and it looks super cool, and I wish that I pushed maybe like the tip of the tail to be a little bit more different, but in the grand scheme of things, it came out really good, and I love it. For this character, and for all the rest of the characters, I'm going to talk about some of my headcanons for the characters, because none of them really have backstories or names. I'm just kind of I thought up some things that I thought would be interesting for the characters to give them a little bit more life while, you know, making this video. So for this particular character, I headcanon him very much as like a Robin Hood character. He goes around playing his like shows. There, that's the word. His shows, rocking out every single night on his funky guitar, taking money from like his wealthy donors to give to his audience in order to help the people in that area. I also headcanon him being very himbo-like. Like, he can 1000% talk to you, like, literally talk your ear off about cybernetics and music and all that good stuff, but he's not the brightest bulb in the bunch. He doesn't get subtle hints. He tries, but he's a golden retriever trapped in a 6-foot body. It's not his fault. He's doing his best. I also very much headcanon that his one cybernetic eye is like partially blind. Like, that eye was already blind to begin with, but even with cybernetics, he has very limited vision out of that eye just because of the trauma that happened to it. I imagine that he would have lost it in like one of his fights through the universe as he's like, you know, collecting his sponsors to give money to his, you know, less fortunate people, potentially. Or it could have been like a childhood trauma sort of thing where he lost it to one of his besties. Who knows? Or he could have been bored with it. Or maybe it's Maybelline. Sorry. In total, this character took quite some time to make, but he came out really well, and I love him to bits. I'm gonna end up keeping him, because I just absolutely adore him. But some of the other characters, I've already kind of decided that I probably... The next prompt is garden party. So I wasn't super sure what a garden party entails, but I assumed it was kind of like a tea party, but in the garden. So I wanted to make something very floral, very whimsical, very soft, but I did want to try to make the character a little bit more androgynous. I don't think that the androgyny part comes as well as some of the other themes that I decided upon, but in total this character came out super beautiful and I couldn't be happier with them. The main theme of this particular character is roses. I really wanted to bring the garden to this character, aka I wanted her to be one of the flowers. So I designed her to have like a bunch of roses and soft, delicate layers, with like butterfly accents. The other thing that I really wanted to do was I didn't want to give her a traditional dress, so I found this really interesting like pair of shorts that opened up in such a way that looked almost like a flower at the bottom. So I decided to make that like the focal point of this piece, is these floral pants that kind of look like they're roses opening up at the bottom. I think that I probably could have done a better job of like designing them when she's sitting, but it's hard. It's hard when they're sitting to make it perfect. So I think in total it came out really well. And I love the effect that it gives her. It gives her this very elegant look, even if it's not as rose-like as I was hoping. I also gave her these big billowy sleeves. I adore these sleeves. They're super fun. I think that they would be like the highlight of her outfit, even though they'd probably be super difficult to move in. I also gave her these really delicate beads along her like upper half. I wanted her to have some bling, a little bit of jewels, just something dainty that wasn't overwhelming for her, but was very much like a statement. Lastly, I did give her hooves. Out of all of the characters, I really wanted to give this one hooves. I don't know why. I just thought it would add to the whimsy of her look, and I definitely feel like it made a lot more sense to give her the hooves versus any of the other characters. I did also not give her horns because I personally think that tieflings come in a lot of different shapes and colors, and horns and tails are very much optional. So she is a little bit more elven looking up at the top, but that tiefling flavor of hooves makes her more like tiefling-esque, and I think I did really good on that. As far as her personality, I feel like she's very much like the gossip. The best way that I can describe it is that she's very much the Lady Whistledown of her area. Like, she's in everybody's business. She knows who's marrying who, she knows who's with who, she knows everything. And she makes a point to try and stay out of people's business that is not her business, but she will 1000% sell you information that you're not supposed to have for the right price. I also feel like she's not like a lady, as far as she doesn't belong to like a noble family, but she very much has come up in the world thanks to all of the work that she's put into collecting all the information that she has. I also feel like she's a little bit of a bitch. I don't know, she just comes off very elegant but kind of bitchy. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. She's a bitch, but she's nice to her friends. Like, that's the vibe that I wanted to give her. And I definitely think that she has that vibe of, yeah, I'm a bitch, but I love my friends. Hopefully this video doesn't get flagged because I said bad words too many times. But yeah, that's her. For the next category, it's craft. And Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck does craft even mean? Now, as somebody that is, into crafts, there is so many different options that you can pick from. There's knitting, crocheting, the fiber arts. That's what I think of, is fiber arts. And I was really not sure where to start with this character, but I think I ended up with a really unique look. I decided to focus on yarn and fabrics. So in doing that, I designed this character to basically be a doll. Not literally, but doll themed. So somebody that was made out of fabrics kind of vibe. I also really wanted to make them cozy, so I 1000% started with a big oversized sweater. For this character though, I decided that they really needed to be very cute, very delicate, very soft kind of vibe. I didn't want them to be super big and muscular, but I also didn't want them to be necessarily effeminate, but not masculine. So I think I did something in the middle, where a lot better than the last character, where I made this very cute looking little dude. His key details are his really intricate yarn hair, the little button on his eye, his little plush horns, and his big yarn tail. I really wanted him to feel like a doll that just got up one day and started walking around. And I think I accomplished that really well. I also really wanted to play with a funky color palette as well as different patterns and shapes. I decided that the funky color palette was going to be orange, pink, and green, with touches of muted yellow and blue. I did also add this really fiery red, but I tried to keep it very, very in its place. Obviously it's not fiery red, but you know what I mean. Is this redder color? Thankfully everything kind of works together and doesn't fight each other too much, but it is a lot. I fully understand that it's a lot. As for the patterns, they're all mismatched. I wanted to try and keep them very simple, but either geometrical or organic, to try and match some of the patterns that I usually see at my local fabric stores. So florals, geometrics, and just simple patterns to try and put a lot of different little details on his outfit. I also put a tiefling design on his shirt, which I thought was really cute, because I thought it'd be fun to have a tiefling with a tiefling shirt. I don't know. I thought it was cute. As far as his personality, I imagine he's very soft-spoken. He's probably the type that likes to sit home, knit, do cooking and cleaning. He's very domestic. I also feel he very much already has a husband kind of vibe. Either a husband or a wife. Who knows? He's I don't know, he just gives that vibe. He's already wifed up. He's already husband up. That's the vibe I get from him. As far as his job, I feel he is the type that probably runs a local fabric shop, or maybe even a tea/bookstore. You can do crafts here, but you can also read sort of vibe. I like that idea. Yeah, we'll do that. For this next one, I'm gonna have to keep it kind of short and sweet. This is one of the few that I've lost, like, all of the footage except for the time-lapse of, unfortunately. So this is the pottery prompt. I wanted him to basically look like he either works on mechanical things and or works as like a blacksmith sort of vibe. I didn't put too much extra nonsense into him because I didn't feel like he needed it. I just wanted him to look like he was made out of clay or pottery, and I wanted the contrast of him being a big, strong, burly dude that works with, like, you know, heavy artillery, but with, like, the delicacy of, like, a pottery kind of vibe, because obviously pots and stuff like that are not exactly the most durable things. Next is fantasy, and it was, dark fantasy? Something around those lines. So for this character, I wanted to embellish him a lot. Now, I did not embellish him half as much as I probably could have, but he was already super detailed, and I was losing my mind. So we did what we could. I wanted him to be super extra, so I gave him this really over-the-top, like, detailed shirt that absolutely was immaculate to draw, but at the same time was the most frustrating thing I've ever drawn. I also gave him, like, this bone mask because I thought it'd be, like, really interesting. He gives off very much like he's going to some sort of party kind of vibe. Maybe he's going to the same party that the garden party is at or something. Who knows? But he's definitely giving, like, a very stern vibe, and I absolutely adore it. On top of giving, like, this very over-the-top sort of look, I wanted him to have lots of bone details. I don't know why, it just felt right for this sort of dark, sort of romantic feel of his outfit. So the bone mask, where his horns kind of blend into the mask, a little staff, or like, it's not staff, it's called like a cane. His little cane with, like, the skull on top and his little bone details on his pants. I also made it so that he does not have a speck of white. Everything is more of, like, a bone color, just to kind of integrate more of, like, that bony sort of vibe, which is why he's called Mr. Bony, which is probably a bad name for him. That's just kind of the name I thought of off the top of my head. I thought it was kind of funny in kind of a on-the-nose sort of way. As far as him as a person, I think that he's actually a very soft individual. Like, he looks stern, but he's very soft. Like, the kind of individual that you go to whenever you have an issue, and he might, you know, give you the tongue click of disapproval, but he will 1000% pull out his, you know, wallet if you need money or help you in any way possible. He's the kind of guy that will give you a hard time, but will drop everything to make sure that you're taken care of. He's also very rich and regal, but in the way that he, you know, owns lots of property. Maybe he owns, like, a theater. Yeah. He doesn't do Shakespeare, but he definitely does do Treasure Island. Lastly, this character was probably the hardest out of all of them. Not because I didn't know exactly like what the prompt was asking for, like the craft character, but because I wasn't sure how to interpret this into an actual character. And what I mean by that is, I wasn't sure how to manifest time into a costume for a party, because this is the ball character. His theme was ball, as far as like a costume ball was my interpretation. And I was kind of playing with a bunch of different ideas as far as like what it was that I thought would be interesting. I ended up upon time being, the best option. But how to interpret time into a costume, I don't know. So I decided to do a bunch of different little shenanigans, and in the end I came up with this. For this character, I decided that his horns were going to be actual like watch clock hands, because I thought it would be really interesting to have kind of like this almost costumey look to his horns. I also incorporated a lot of like clockwork type look. I also incorporated a lot of clockwork type elements into his outfit. So his clock on his neck, his cuffs are kind of clocks, sorta kinda. The cogs on his little, skirt flap? I think it's supposed to be part of his shirt. As well as the little clock on his bloomers. I also gave him like the hands of time on like his boots as like a kind of a buckle, and then on his horns, obviously. It was very interesting to make this character. He very much looks like a little shit that has way too much time and way too much money. My friends all said that he looked like he was a lost child, like a disgruntled lost child, and I couldn't agree more. He definitely looks like a lost, disgruntled child, and it's the funniest thing ever. As far as his personality, I feel like he's very snooty. He's the kind of person that if you're not on time, even by like a minute, you are getting punished. He also is the like main manager of like a bank or something. I kid you not. It's like that kind of vibe. He's very strict, he's very stern, you have to be on time. So he's perfect for a bank. He runs his bank like, a tyrant, but he's always fair. I don't know if he does like the loans or anything, but he definitely knows how to get a good deal out of something, and he always makes sure that his money is right. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please remember to like, subscribe, do all that jazz to help smaller artists like myself. Also remember that I do have a Ko-fi where you can not only get a bunch of merchandise like buttons, badges, stickers, stuff like that, but you can just, leave me a little tip. It helps me make pieces like this and, continue my work. So if you're feeling generous, please consider. Otherwise, just you watching this video is enough, and I greatly appreciate it. Anywho, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Hopefully it'll be soon. Bye-bye!